Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Huddersfield Town Social. My name's Greg Marah. Joining me as ever are Cameron Pope and Ian Kilroy. Back on the podcast, Thomas Firbank and Gareth Kaye, and a newbie, a debutant. I think this is our 12th or 13th person on, Nicholas Barlow. Hello, Nick. You all right? Welcome aboard the train of fun as Huddersfield Town seem to be quite good on the pitch. A lot of progression. However, off the pitch, we've finally heard from our esteemed chairman, Philip Hodgkinson, who has put his head above the parapet for the first time in a while in an interview with Lee Bromby for the Huddersfield Daily Examiner, or Examiner Live, whatever you want to call it these days. I'll start with a general overview, because I think there were some bits in there which provided some information which we've perhaps been needing for a while, but there was other bits which was a lot of twaddle, a lot of waffle, as some people have said on social media, and some bits was just bear a bit of insignificance when it comes to what's gone on in the past. It was a very strange article, and we delayed our recordings until this came out, because I thought it was only fair, or we thought it was only fair, that we kind of see what was in the article, and it's kind of what I expected, really. There wasn't too much to really settle the nerves of those who are concerned, but there was enough to keep those who will say that they bleed blue and white, and some may call happy clappers happy. So, gentlemen, what are we thinking?
Well, I read it and then reread it again because I had a spare hour to kill. I think fair play to Stephen Chicken. I think he tried to ask the questions that most of us would have asked. He got into the detail a little bit around players and the squad and the plan and the finances. I think I look at some of what they've said. He said several times through the interview, we have a clear plan. That plan is coming clear, and that is that we're now going to try and promote youth. I mean, some of the claims around signing youth players from under the nose of top six clubs felt a bit odd. Saying that the progression, Dehaney and Daly were two that he specifically named, encourages these kids, and I think they've 2 sub appearances between them so far this year, so they're hardly tearing up the championship. His comment about 5 strikers was a bit bizarre. I think the 2 young lads, Kaye and the other lad, they're nowhere near ready for the championship yet. But the worst thing really was just the bits of conflict around the financial element. So, I have absolutely no issue with him keeping money in the bank. I think anybody who runs a business at the moment, cash is king. You're sitting on your cash balance wherever you can. So I don't have an issue with that in itself. But then he conflicted it by claiming further down he was investing, what seemed to be significant sums of his personal money on an ongoing basis. So there was a bit of conflict there. Have we got a load of money in the bank or haven't we? And same around the shirt sponsorship. He said that we weren't asking too much. But in the next, but obviously that went completely against what Devo said on Twitter. So listen, credit where credit's due. The lads have come out and opened up a bit more, which is good to see. But the financial element still is odd. I'm sure the others will pick up transfers generally, but 5 out of 10 for me, I think, in terms of what we got back from it.
Yeah, it was a strange old interview, actually. And I want to echo what Gaz said, in the sense that I thought Stephen Chicken delivered the interview. He was asking the probing questions, and he followed up as well. I thought it was a good read from the interviewer's side. And I think, it's only fair to be balanced in another week where the board and the club hierarchy have come in for a lot of criticism, some justified, some otherwise. I think it's good to start on a positive, and I think, okay, I was quite pleased to see that Phil came out and admitted that the Paddy Bauer fiasco was a mistake. As a chairman, he said he took the rap for that. I thought, right, okay, fair enough. He's held his hands up for that one, so I thought, okay, I appreciated that. And it was interesting to see how that linked into this year as well. I'm no businessman, so I can't. I can't say how much it affects other betting companies coming in, but that's the answer he's given us. I'm happy to take that. I don't think it excuses the whole shirt sponsor fiasco, although we should supposedly be seeing more movement on that. So I'll leave that until the news surfaces. But there was also a lot of points, as we've said, in and amongst the waffle. And okay, yeah, it was a transcript. You know, you're gonna have to filter through it to find the salient details. There were things I had a few problems with, namely and it was quite early on as well, the mention of strikers. I thought it was quite a good question to go in on, asking, do we have enough bodies on the ground? Do we have enough bodies in attack? And to say that we have 5 strikers on our books, I think that's a bit of a cheeky comment, to be honest. Bearing in mind that one has barely featured since he joined us, is still out for another couple of weeks. This is Danny Ward, of course. So he's been out. We've got Josh Koroma, who's not played his whole career, his young career as a striker. We've seen, okay, that he can certainly fit into that mould. So that's one for the future, we hope. Fraser Campbell, of course. But then to include 2 young lads, like we said, in Kaye and Harrett, and a young lad from Everton, other sides have youth strikers. They also have a cohort of senior strikers who they can call on day to day, week in, week out. Good that we can complement it with youth, but to include them in our core setup, I mean, Kaye and Harrett, we don't know much about the lad because he hasn't played much senior football. And so, yeah, great, he may be another Josh Koroma, someone that can bed in, but it might work with 1 youth player. Is it going to work with 3? And the second thing, and this links into it, was and it was a strange affair over the transfer deadline weekend. The Rolando Aarons affair. And now, okay, it seems they were quite keen on their man, but the way that Phil puts it is that, you know, if Karlan Grant wasn't going to go this window, then we didn't need to bring in another player in that area. Yeah, fair enough. But Karlan Grant did go. Okay, Karlan Grant did go. And he says about the Aarons deal, okay, it was ready to go, but then in essence, something came up. Well, if it was ready to go, I don't understand why Rolando Aarons isn't a Huddersfield Town player. Okay, they said that something's come up, maybe they can't divulge that to us. But my issue goes further, because rather than bring, and this is Phil continuing, so rather than bringing someone in at the last minute or bringing in someone else, he's our top target, he remains so, and what we'd rather do is get through the next 10 weeks to January and get it done then, rather than bring in somebody that maybe doesn't tick all the boxes Rolando did. Okay, this is Rolando Aarons, right? This isn't a young Barcelona prodigy, and we're making out it as if he is the be-all and end-all, the saviour for our season and the man that we must have. Making out that the lad who spent time at Wickham and Motherwell last season is the only option we can go for, and we'd rather hold out for 10 weeks, in which time we've got a saturated fixture list and a busy calendar, rather than bring someone else in. I don't know, that didn't sit well with me, actually. That didn't sit well with me. So I don't know what's gone on there. Do I believe that he is this hailed target that's going to take us forward and no one else could live up to the billing? I don't know, do the math. It doesn't do it for me. So in summary, okay, some good points, but also throws up a lot of new questions.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what you said there, Cam. I think it reads like a series of contradictions for me. There's parts that I agree with. Finance-wise, I don't think anyone would argue that the club, obviously, the survival of the club in these times comes first. Obviously, there's a lot of points within that you know, people are debating, rightly so. But in terms of the transfer activity, to sum up the transfer deadline day, I think probably if we're going down the Spanish route, we'd probably call it Esencia una paja. And I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but it's basically translates into wank. And that's my basic overall summary of the last day of the transfer window, because, you know, only Huddersfield Town could sell, you know, 2 players that contributed 60% of our total goals last season and not replace them at all. We're looking to Rolando, obviously, to come in, as you say, and be our saviour, but the guy scored about 13 goals in his entire career. He's not a young, really, in terms of, I think he's nearly 25. I think he turns 25 next month. So I'm struggling to see, I hope I'm wrong, because it looks like he's probably going to come in January, but I'm struggling to see what he's going to bring, really. And to say we've got 5 strikers on the books, as you've said, you know, them 2 youngsters, again, they might come good, but, you know, at the same time, we can't rely just on youth all the time. The original question was about forwards as well, not just strikers, and he's almost just brushing over it. And later on in the interview, we're talking about the progress of Huddersfield and Jackson, saying, look, we don't need to bring in loads more players. We're happy with what we've got because we've got these youngsters, and we want to provide this pathway of progression. We want to encourage players to come in rather than choosing Premier League clubs. We want them to come to Huddersfield because we've got this amazing progressive system. But if that's the case, I mean, we've just signed a defensive midfielder, Vallejo. I think that's the correct pronunciation. I could be wrong. Vallejo. He's nodding. Why have we brought him in then if we've got Huddersfield and Jackson ready to come in? I don't know. This just seems. I mean, I'm not complaining because we need squad depth. The squad's way for thin, and if we get a couple of injuries, then we are in trouble. You know, to say the least. But it just seems a bit of a series of contradictions for me, and there's just something not quite right to me about it all.
It's quite clear from the interview that when Phil first came in, we all believed it was a bit of a Dean Hoyle light, and he basically said as much as himself. He said that the club would continue in a similar way. He'd be able to invest a similar amount to Dean Hoyle. And okay, it might have changed a little bit because of what's going on. I understand that. And then when you've got DTS talking about we've been the most open club he's ever known for the last 15 years, and then saying we're not going to tell everybody the plan. Well, that is a change. There is a change there. The club are now admitting it. And that's great. To be honest, I just wanted honesty on that. Like, if that's the way they want to go, that's fine. But it's not the way it has been run before. And by what we've read today, it won't be going forward either. The Brentford model discussion seems to have dropped out the window. That doesn't seem to be there anymore. And that's, again, if that's the way we're going, absolutely fine. I got a problem with that. Regarding the strikers, we started Mbenza up front at the weekend. We started Mbenza as a striker. I didn't mention him as a list of strikers. So already, even by the club's own admission, we're using strikers that aren't what we deem to be strikers, and we think we've got enough in the squad. The system we're playing has been unseen by clubs in our division. What that means is we're going into games and it's pretty difficult for clubs to scout us. So we're getting away with quite a lot, and it's going to be more effective now than it will be later on in regards to people being able to counter us. We're gambling on this form continuing with a squad that, as we all know, is so thin. Again, at the weekend, fullbacks clears havoc. They were fantastic, and we're going to rely on players and fullbacks that have never played in this division before to cover them when injuries creeping. 22 games, 22 days. I think we've got 7 games. I think that's where it adds up to in the next few weeks, and that's ridiculous. And what we've got will be tested, and at the end of those 22 days, we'll know a lot more about where we currently are as a squad. They've come out pretty early on after a win. I know that the interview was done beforehand. But the results up until then have been pretty good. So it is a good time for them to come out and talk about it for them. But the gamble hasn't paid off just yet. It started well. It has started well. Corbin looks fantastic to me. His football, his in-game adjustments look perfect. I just wish we'd have been able to back him up a little bit more. We've had 17 players out. I think the recent count is since last year's squad. You can try and, it's not fudging figures, but clubs have always had youth players in given squad numbers, yet you don't necessarily count them as your first team players. We suddenly are doing. Now that looks great on paper, but football's not played on paper, it's played on the field, played on the grass, as the Cowleys love to say. We've got players who will be on the grass that haven't been on the grass before in front of the expectations of first team football, and they'll be found out, I think, unfortunately. So the club have been bold. They've put full faith in Corbin. The plan is pretty clear to tell us only what they want to tell us, to give Corbin as little as possible, to keep it as tight financially until this coronavirus is sorted out. But from what the interview told us was not very much. It missed out on a lot of things for me. Stadium ownership, is that share in a trust away from the club, away from Phil, away from Dean? Where is it? Canalside, who owns Canalside? Who owns the land on Canalside? Again, biggest question, still not been asked. Canalside was planned to be 20 million. Devlin said it was 6 to 7 million. Where's that 30 million gone? Because that happened prior to any coronavirus issue. That happened well before that. Costs were cut. The question wasn't asked, or it wasn't reported on. It wasn't answered. The questions that were asked were fantastic for short-term football things for me. Chicken's fantastic. Great questions on that. Maybe the club didn't want to answer it, I don't know. But the longer-term stadium and Canalside issues, they weren't resolved. And the video might be coming on Canalside this week. That would be fantastic. But it still doesn't answer the question of why it was cut in the first place before any of this crisis happened. So either Well, the other thing there was that he came out saying our budget now is higher than it's ever been in the Championship prior to last season. But the Carleys said it was 18 million or something in January. So now with Congolo and Grant leaving, it must have dropped further. There's a few things there that didn't make sense, and maybe in time it'll become clear. But at least they're talking to us again. At least that is a little bit of a start.
I could echo loads of things that you guys have already said. For me, there were 2 extra points I'd probably touch on. First one is positive in the fact that I think it sounds like Phil's learned a little bit. There's no kind of big promises in there. There's none of this. We're going to sign loads of Premier League loans. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It was all very restrained, which is probably why DTS was there to make sure he could hold him back. And then on the flip side of it, actually, to the bit at the end of the interview where DTS speaks, he mentioned that the end of the transfer window was the right time to speak. And when Chicken asked him, is that because you don't want to go on and say we've got loads of money or we've not got any money? He sort of says, yeah. But then Phil's already said before this that we're sorted for 2 years. The rest of us, he's been fighting on national radio and everything for all the other clubs because he loves football. But we're sorted for 2 years. So that gives away our negotiating position anyway. That was the whole point of doing this at the end of the transfer window, was to not ruin our negotiating window. But then Phil's already said, yeah, we're sorted. And January is only 10 weeks away. So now everyone's just going to ask more money from us in January. That's just a contradiction within itself. And I don't get that bit. From a communications director, I wouldn't expect him to then just completely go and trip up what his boss has said probably 10 minutes prior. But yeah, I think main thing, like you said, Cam, that kind of got to me was the bit on Aaron's. He sounded so much like Boris Johnson. Oh yeah, it was ready. It was ready. But it's not ready, is it? It's not ready yet. So like, surely every provision should have been taken. Like, the medical didn't get done. Kind of understand that you might not want to pay for all them medical tests, but if he's as good as he says he is, just get it booked in, get it done beforehand. He knew that Grant was gone Thursday. He had a full day to do it. All that should have been left to do, if it was competent and it was ready, was completing that medical and then signing the piece of paper. Every provision should have been taken to rule that out, and he should be through the door. From what quite a few people have said and media outlets and stuff, he's been in Huddersfield for 4 days before Friday, and we still didn't manage to get it done. That's just criminal. And it, just touching back, like you said, Greg, yeah, we looked quite good on the pitch on Saturday, but in a way, it kind of made me even more angry that then the club messed up so much with that, because you could see what we can potentially be doing here and what Carlos can be doing. But it's just seemingly simple mistakes. Again, it's not good enough to just come out and say, oh, yeah, something went wrong. So I'm sorry, he's in Huddersfield for 4 days. Something can't just go wrong.
Verbs, it can. And I'm going to go back to something Ross Wilson did. Ross Wilson did a really good interview a couple of years ago where he spoke about the Mark Hudson transfer. And when we were bringing Mark Hudson in, another club found out last minute and tried to get involved. And if you listen, lockdown, and that's made me listen to a hell of a lot of podcasts. I think it was a joe.co.uk one with Steve Sidwell. He was on about, he got, I can't remember, he was signing for someone and another club come in. I think it was Stoke, might have come in for him. And he's gone in a different direction. So it might have been in the case of that. So you don't know. And, they're keeping the cards close to the chest. And I'd much prefer him to say, listen, we're changing tact, as Ian pointed out earlier, than kind of pretend like everything's savvy. And, we don't know what happened. To be honest, I'm not arsed. I don't think he's good enough. If you're not pulling up trees at Wickham in League One, then you're probably not going to be good enough for us. I'm happy for you to prove me wrong. I'm happy for always be proved wrong if it means Huddersfield Town win football matches. But, I think I'd much rather just say we're going to hold our cards close to the chest, because what then you get from this interview is you've got a certain type of fan who's now going, oh, look, they've done something. You've got to be happy with that. And we've just gone through that and gone, well, I'm not happy with that. They've contradicted themselves on that. We've not solved the issue at Canalside or the stadium shares yet. Oh, you don't need to know that. Well, I think you do, because ultimately stakeholders in football clubs do need to know things. So, listen, there's a little bit of humility in there. There's a little bit of honesty in there. It's better than what we've had. But like I said at the start, I think there's a lot of waffle, a lot of shade. It doesn't really mean much at the minute. I think the most important thing for me is on the field now. That's what I care about, because off the field, the disconnect is real. And those people who are on social media, the irony is they're saying that the people on social media aren't fans and now calling each other morons. Oh, look at the state of our fans. And it's just like, I don't know if it's an age thing. And you know, we remember fucking Rubery and Wadsworth and all that stuff. Cam doesn't, because he was too young. But when you see the club going into the shit, and you've got a young lad going on Twitter saying that Hoyle saved the club because Davey was running into the ground. No, he wasn't. He was running it basically at break even, because 6,000 fans in the ground doesn't equate to much money. It is what it is. I'm glad it's happened. I think Stephen Chicken's done a fairly good job at Huddersfield Examiner, and fair play to him for getting this sorted. I am a communications professional. How much of that has been edited behind the scenes and things are not allowed to be said? I've done it with certain questions, and when I've had to be looking after someone with an interview, I know the score. There'll be certain things that won't be included in that, which we're not allowed to know. They're the bits I would love to know. That's the journalist in me.
There is one problem, Greg, with the entire thing that we actually missed out on, and it's all right saying that the club are getting a bit, they don't want to tell us everything, but everyone's thrown into the same box in the club's view, and I think some people are asking questions that aren't necessary, so they will give a town an advantage when it comes to negotiating with the clubs. We're not after that information. We're after the bigger information, the stuff like the canal side, like the stadium. But when Phil responds in the interview saying, we can't answer every question, we can't answer every question every hour, and then somebody else said every hour, like, the implication of that, they're implying that we shouldn't answer anything. And that's not what we're after. It's not every single decision that needs to be answered. Nobody's asking for that information. It's the big questions, but we don't have the opportunity to ask them, because the only way they do it is through a meeting where they invite their own 14 people at the ATT or to the town meetings. And then you've got a transcribed interview in the Examiner, which will have been edited. They're still not given the opportunity to ask the big questions, not the questions that affect the footballers on the field on a game-to-game basis, but the bigger things are surrounding the club. There's no advantage given to any other club in the division by answering the question about the training facility or the stadium facility. But when they're rubbishing us saying, yeah, we're getting asked the questions every hour, it kind of throws everybody in the same bus and they can just ignore it. And I think certain fans see that, jump on board, and then it turns fans against each other. And I think they are actually fanning the flames to stop people asking questions that have a right to be asked, in my opinion.
You do wonder whether the Ronaldo, I mustn't call him Ronaldo, he's not Ronaldo, is it? Rolando Aarons, whether the fall down of that transfer actually might have been a good bit of good news, because the bits of football teams that most fans see are the ins and outs. It's the people on the pitch. So I was talking about, why didn't he sign? What happened there? Why did that fall through? No, we'll never know why in full. It's a great distraction. The issue I have, the biggest issue I have with the Aarons fall through on the last day is that seemed to be the only egg we had in our basket. We had absolutely zero other options. We keep saying we scout the markets and we're constantly looking, and our sum is a bloke that Newcastle want rid of who wasn't good enough for Wickham last year. Ain't great anyway, is it? I think that was my biggest disappointment. And I had a look through some of the other transfers that have been done across the Championship, and yeah, he's right. The volume turnover of players is a lot lower, and the spend is a lot lower, and so it bloody should be. But what I don't get is our business looks the most vapid. It looks the thinnest. That'd be my worry. And then I'm with you, Ian. I think they're desperately trying to avoid talking about things they don't want to talk about. So they're happy to talk about shirt sponsorship, and they're happy to talk about, the bloke was here 3 days and something happened last minute, because that's not the real question, is it? I don't think.
think you're right. This will fan the flames for a lot of fans, because a lot of fans don't care about the stuff. They just care about what's happening on the pitch. And that is the majority of what you would see on social media is, oh, I'm annoyed because we've not brought in another player and I want to see us win on the pitch. This will do that. But like Greg said, this will be irrelevant if good things don't happen on the pitch now. And fair play, Phil said that he's saving the money and he's putting it in the bank to protect the future of the club. And for him as well as a fan, that's got to be hard. That's got to be hard for him to weigh that up and sort of say, you know what, I'll put this away for a long period of time, because it could well be detrimental to our future as a championship club. Like putting away for 2 years when other clubs can probably max put away for 2 months and hope that there's some kind of bailout. That's a very privileged position, but also potentially puts us at more risk than other teams. So, like you said, Greg, the judgment after this will be on the pitch.
And if we lose any more players to injury as well, and it is that the front two or front three, whatever they're going to play, where we are most at risk, because you have got Josh Koroma, who's probably in his breakout season. He's probably Lewis O'Brien last year. You're hoping he's having a Lewis O'Brien season, and I do like what I see, and he's got some end product finally in there. But when you're relying on Diakabi and Mbenza, I've always thought there's a player in Mbenza. Most of his goals in the French league came playing up front. So, when he's talking about 5 strikers, he might want to say 4 strikers and put Mbenza in that. But it's the lack of wingers, and there was a little bit in about the free transfer market, so it wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 more were brought in on the free transfer market. I think because, Ian said it for a few weeks. There's going to be a bit of value in that. It'd be interesting to see, but yeah, listen, we're very similar in the sense that we care about how the club's run, and that's because you want. I think when you've nearly seen your club go bust when you're a kid, you don't want to be in that position again. And I've got mates who I went to uni with who support clubs like Rushden Diamonds and Bury. I've seen their clubs go bust. I don't want Town to be in that position, and I think this has been a steady decline in the relationship with fans and the club over the last 6 months. Well, yeah, probably 6 months, I'd say, actually. And when you're seeing your chairman and the CEO going on to national media outlets, saying words like doomsday scenario, it kind of brings all that back to you when you've got buckets at grounds trying to collect and save your club from going under. So I think that was a bit of misguided attention from the club, and they have to take it on the chin and learn from it. But it is what it is. It's to the pitch where I'm more concerned now, because we have brought in Cam. Please do the pronunciation of Vallejo.
Alex Vallejo. 20-second Spanish lesson. So Alex is Alex, and then V in Spanish is a B, double L is a Y, and a J is like an awkward sort of scouse that you get in echo. So that's what you're going with. Alex Vallejo.
There you go. If you want to do Spanish, Cam's available for hire. He's probably doing some kind of online course. He's in need of the money. I haven't got a clue about Spanish. Me and my mate Robbo used to do Yorkshire French in our kind of French lessons at school. That's all we got with. But yeah, Alex Vallejo, I'm going to call him that because that's probably the best time we're going to do, joins from, he's La Liga 2, where he spent the majority of his career as a number 6 to compete with Jonathan Hogg. Don't know anything about him. It's another body. It's nice to see, but it doesn't sort that front three out, and that's my biggest concern going into the next period of games, where we've got a lot of Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesdays, and that's what kills you. We saw that the year we went up with Wagner, where we had 9 games in 31 days. 7 in 22 is just as bad.
It's all right, Cam, saying that the pronunciation, right? But last time we brought in a Spanish lad, we had this discussion on Pipa, and we were unsure on how his name was pronunciated. And then in the first game he played for us, I was trying to work out what the commentators calling him. They had a few different guys, and then because there's no crowds in the stadium, he lost his tracker. He was tracking a winger and he lost him. I think it was Scott from the bench said, "Fucking hell, Pippa, watch him." So that's I know that's his pronunciation anyway. So if Bahecha, we'll know by the weekend if he starts, because someone will shout some stuff at him, no doubt, and we can clear that up straight away. But he looks like he's going to come into play as a DCM. He's a big, tall lad, and from the Swans game, which we'll go on to in a minute, I imagine. The gap between our defence and our front five is massive. The system is such a strange. There's very few players in the middle of the field, and I think what we're looking at there is we've brought in a tall guy to clear up the long balls. Johnny Hogg's a bit of a small dude. He's not very great in the air. A lot of teams in this division are quite physical strikers this year, quite big, tall lads, and I think he's there to break up stuff like dead balls. He's going to be again, I like to call them the meat eaters, and that is that when the ball's up in the air, you have a guy that's pretty zonal, and he goes and wins that first ball every time. I think that's the idea with him. I think he's coming in there, big lad, to win the headers from longer balls. No idea if he's going to be any good, but we needed extra bodies. Hogg's been found out recently for me. I think his ball playing isn't good enough, not good enough. And with this entire new system we had at the weekend that we hadn't seen before, I don't think Hogg's the right guy to be in there. We saw Eiting and what he could do, and in 20 minutes you could see it was a cluster of what Hogg can do when it comes to being on the ball. So I think this is trying let us have something a little bit different in the midfield, a bit more bite airily to clear out and turn the ball back over into our favour. So it's an interesting signing. It's always nice getting another foreigner in, isn't it? So we're 1 for 1 we're 1 for 2 on Spanish signings. That with Lopez, who never really hit it off, and now we've got fucking El Pippa, who's banging. So let's just see how it goes.
I think, like you said, Ian, this Baejo, he could kind of solve part of the problem that we've got. So I think you mentioned that we'll get caught between the fullback and the centre back because our fullbacks are just going to bomb on so much. And this guy being 6'3", something like that, I think he will basically drop in and form a back three. Because I don't know if you saw Corberan's news conference earlier today as well. He basically came out and spoke about the fullbacks, and so we're sort of saying, yeah, Jayden Brown can do the same kind of things attacking wise that Toffolo can. I don't think he can to that level, but he's obviously a young backup, and that's what he's trying to make him. But then he went on and spoke quite a bit about different right back options that we've got and how they've basically wingers. So St. Pieper was a winger. We've got Duane, who is more of an attacking fullback, a bit weak defensively. And then, what's his name? The kid that played at West Ham, that was a winger as well. That's now right wing back. Oh, Aaron Rowe, that's the one. Basically saying there are options for fullback. And if we did just have Hogg, we would just get done constantly. But if him dropping in and making it 3 like we played on Saturday, that could help with that, because Hogg's not physical enough to play as that almost third centre back and allow the fullbacks to bomb on. So I think that's what he's looking at, and I think this will kind of gradually be the phasing out of Jonathan Hogg. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't here next season and we just got 2 kind of big, tall centre mids, another version of this guy that we've just got in.
We're slowly adding some more height to the team, aren't we? In Sarr and this guy. We've been a bit short from. You look at set pieces when a corner comes in, you don't, you've no confidence anyone's going to meet it with the height of the players that we've got. So if anything, if nothing else, he adds a bit of height to the side, which is always welcome. So I think he'll be a decent squad player. It takes some of the pressure off Hogg. I think him Hogg will interchange. I was hoping to see maybe Eiting in that role. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen, but now I think he'll be a good squad player for us moving forward.
Yeah, there's not much about him because usually you get the Jonathan Sahue YouTube compilation, but unfortunately that's not been around with the social media team at town with the little magnifying glass. So I'm not sure TV's hit La Liga 2 yet, but Saturday let's go to Swansea, because on the field it was an interesting game. Town playing a new formation, 2-1 win. It was nice to create chances and score goals. Josh Koroma scored his first. Harry Toffolo with a cheeky little flick. And Benza nearly scored a couple of times, which is nice to see, because I do think there is a player in there somewhere if he sorts his touch out. But on the other end of that, I think Swansea will be a little bit aggrieved, because Ben Hamer made a couple of really, really good saves. The one-on-one in the first half, he won't get the credit. He stayed big. I'm a goalkeeper, not a very good one. I would have gone down very easily and guessed, a bit like Kepa Arrizabalaga. But he stayed big, made a really, really good save. We still look, Schindler, 7 interceptions the most, I think, this season. So defensively, we were made to work. So there is still a little bit of unease at the back, but you can't complain. Some of the football we played was really, really good.
Yeah, I was really pleased with that. I think we were wrong. All of us we looked on the draw. I looked on the defeat, should I say?
I did. My internet went, just to get that in there.
I'm proud of it now, because I'll be honest, I really could not envisage a win coming, and that was before the whole storm hit this week. While clouds were rolling in off the pitch, the lads were obviously unbowed by the pressure, and full credit to them and to Carlos as well. I thought there were a number of standout performers. I thought Sarr was strong again. It gave us a bit of a hairy moment from a back pass early on, I believe, but he looked solid. Koroma, okay, slow start. He was quite quiet in the early period, but he matured into it. A lot of pressure on some young shoulders there. I thought he took his finish superbly well. Could have had a couple, to be honest. So I was glad he got one now. I wouldn't want that run to just drag on and on and on, especially with us being so reliant on him. So no, that was good to see from a young lad. But again, and like we said, another man of the match shout has to go to Ben Hamer. I personally think the penalty was a little bit harsh. But he did everything that was asked of him. A lot of routine saves as well. We saw against Forest, he pulled off a couple of wondrous stops, but it wasn't really the case on Saturday. He was just a wall. He stopped what came at him, and that's all you can ask. I read that Swansea's XG was 3.3. Highest in Championship for the whole weekend. So there's something stopping that, and it was him. So absolutely fair play, credit where credit is due, because he often does get a bad rap. And this season, I don't want to jinx it too early, but he's starting to grow. And then again, the other player we need to mention, of course, is Benza, who also looks to be growing. And unfortunately, I wish that we weren't reliant so heavily on these players and playing him as a striker. It would be nice to see him mature away from the pressure, which is the thing I worry about with Koroma as well. Okay, but he's had a bit more first team experience here, or at least he's been around the first team setup for longer. But Carlos seems to be getting something out of him that no manager could before. There's obviously a player in there. There's obviously some skill in there. He latched onto a really good ball from Eiting second half. He was lucky not to get a goal himself, but it was also nice to see him speak so highly of Carlos and the backroom staff post match. So he seems to be someone who's enjoying his football, and let's be honest, he's going to get a lot of it over the next few weeks. So long may that continue. I thought it exposed again some frailties that better tacticians than myself, I'm sure, will talk on him and have talked on in greater detail. But in a week where we really needed a good showing on the field, it certainly delivered that, because it would have been a really sour end to a dour weekend. And so, yeah, I've got to say that I thoroughly enjoyed watching that game. I felt entertained. It was good to see us playing some intricate football. And I'm actually excited now and looking forward to seeing what the rest of us matches leading up to the end of this month and can bring us.
I think it was non-stop positives for me. Was the Swansea game. I thought Carlos got the tactics absolutely spot on. He broke the game down into chunks, which I always like to see. We managed to contain them. I know they obviously had the chance for the penalty, but managed to contain them pretty much in the first half. I thought for the first 20 minutes, half hour of the second half, I thought we were phenomenal. The two strikers almost played wide. They kept making runs outside the 18-yard box in towards the corner flag, and that left all that room for the fullbacks to bomb in. I thought Toffolo and Pippa were just unreal again. I mean, those boys do cover some miles, they really do. Benham made that. I mean, the save, as you said, the one-on-one save was it was top draw. If that had been Alisson or the Man City keeper, they'd have played it 100 times on Match of the Day. His distribution continues to give me the EBGBs. Still managed to slice it to their player once or twice, but he's massively improved. We're looking really good on the pitch, and I think this unknown coach that we managed to somehow burgle from Leeds is starting to look like a stroke of genius. I enjoyed it. I'm with you, Cam. It's really nice watching the game and enjoying it and seeing it unfold. And if the game could have been 4-4 on Saturday, that's how open it was and that's how attacking it was. And I guess that's what we all want to see. But it's made even the sweeter, of course, when we managed to sneak away with the 3 points.
Absolutely phenomenal result. It could be one of the wins. That's a terrific result. To go to Swansea, not an easy place to go to. They've not lost so far this season. And to get a result like that, I thought was absolutely phenomenal, absolutely buzzing. Really impressed with Carlos, with his tactics, and the fitness is telling as well. Last season, similarly at Rotherham, they kept going. They were under the cosh towards the end of the second half, but they dug in deep, they were disciplined, and the fitness, you can see the fitness is starting to tell now. Players are a lot fitter, they're grinding these results out. As you said, fantastic save from Hamer. If that goes in, it could be a different game. I thought he was slightly unlucky with the penalty because his momentum takes him into the player, Smith. But I think, although Aitin was fantastic most of the game, I think he does lose Smith running through. He just loses his man, unfortunately. But I thought overall, absolutely fantastic performance. And Benz's coming into his own, very unlucky with the step inside and the shot against the post. Great goal from Karoma, although I'm not sure who was supposed to be marking him. But you look at the stats, XG of 1.46 is better than the average of less than 1, what we're used to. 48% possession, but 3 shots on target, which is kind of pointing to the fact that we're now starting to get to a point where we're doing more with the ball. So traditionally we'd have more possession, but the XG, the shots on target, would be next to 0. So we're starting to see the stats pointing to us doing more with the ball, being more effective with the ball, creating more chances. Swansea's 3.3 still is a little cause for concern, and we need to start limiting the chances that the opposition are getting. But I think it's pointed. There's good signs. Really impressed, and hopefully we can take that on. And a special mention to Toffolo as well. I mean, he's an absolute machine. You look at the 2 main contributions to Town's XG. They're both from Harry Toffolo, and they both come from the centre of the box, which shows that essentially he's our main attacking threat. That's how important a player he is, and it shows the energy levels to get, cover the entire length of the pitch. I think he's definitely our best player at the moment. Absolutely amazing find.
I think for me, there were 2 things that stood out. One, you've already touched on it, Gaz, the tactics from Corberan. What I enjoyed most about it was the tactical flexibility. So it was just good to see that he's got a plan B. Yes, the kind of press and the way we want to play football might be similar, but he's happy to shift the formation depending on who we're playing and to give us the best chance. It was something that Wagner never really mastered, and for all the good that he did, and it will probably be the best 2 seasons in our lifetimes, but that kind of tactical flexibility, he's changed it from nowhere. At no point did I expect him to play with a back 3. I think we had a few texts before the game and we were looking at it going, is this 5-5-0? Is he trying to play 5-3-2? Like, what's going on here? We just didn't know. But that for me was really impressive because it means you kind of go into any game thinking we could do something rather than going, oh, we're going to go in, we're going to play 4-3-3, we're going to try this, but the players might not be good enough, so best we can hope for is maybe nicking a late draw or something like that. We could genuinely go into games and have a bit of confidence now. And then the other player has been mentioned a little bit by Aiting. I watched most of the game and then watched the extended highlights back as well. And the big thing for me was the forward passes from him. We've not had someone that looks to find the gaps and can thread a ball through like he's been doing since Moy. Essentially, we've been crying out for that Moy replacement since he went on the final day of the last summer's transfer window. And the little touch that he did for around the corner for Mbenza, and then 2 minutes later, the ball into Toffolo when he had a great game to Toffolo. But Jesus, you've got to score there, mate. He's centre of the goal, 5 yards out, and he's put it wide. But we'll let him off because he definitely meant that flick for first goal, didn't he? So we'll let him off for the miss. But yeah, I think like you guys have said, nothing but positives really. Tighten up at the back a little bit. Hopefully this new guy can help with that. And let's see what we can do.
It's really important if you play one system that you have the money to go out and buy the best you can to play that one system, because you can't change it if things are going wrong. We kind of thought, and we're led to believe, it was Beelzebub. That's what we were getting. That's what time we're going to be. It's not at all. This guy, Corbin, his in-game adjustments is as good, and considering the personnel we have, maybe better than the Cowleys. And now my standing on that was clear. They used to change the game the last 20 minutes better than I've ever seen any manager do at any level, at any time, for any team. The football was boring for 70 minutes, but they changed it, little tweaks, and found a way to win, or found a way to take something from games. On Saturday, we started with a 3-5-2. That's what we started with. And straight away, Lowe was getting in behind Steers and Pippa, who was running in that little diagonal there. And that's where the 1-on-1 came from. And within 10 minutes, we'd changed. So we'd gone out with a 3-5-2 and we changed straight away to a 5-3-2 because we were getting overrun. We could have been 3-0 down in the first 15 minutes. If Ben Hamer's not on the game like he was at the weekend, we'd have 3-0 down. And people forget that. People always remember how the second half goes in football games. That's right, but it's still based on the foundations built in the first half, and the game could have been put to bed before we even woke up. Again, moments and things went in our favour. And to me, it was on Hamer. But we dropped back to that 5-3-2 just to control the game a little bit, and we had to do it. Otherwise, they'd run off with it. And then we scored a goal. And let's be honest, guys, that first goal came from absolutely nothing. We weren't even really in the game until that went in. But the really good thing about that, I know it came from a corner, but that's not entirely relevant in regards to what I'm going to say, that for years we've had nobody in the box. For years we've got one guy in the box and one winger try and get in at the back post, and he's normally a bit late and never got there. So Mounier was always on his own. We've got 5 and 6 people in the box every time we go forward at the moment, and that first goal comes directly from that, in that there's so many bodies there. Bakuna's put one in, and Toffolo's just redirected it into the goal. That's what happens when you've got bodies there. It's hard for keepers to see what's going on. Greg's not only a communications expert, he's a goalkeeper as well. So he'll tell you that it's a little bit hard when there's so many people up there. It just takes different bounces and it goes in. You speculate to accumulate a little bit when it comes to men in the box and scoring goals, and that's really, really good to see. I did miss the interview or the pre-match interview today, guys, in regards to us having fullbacks that can come in and do a job. Well, Jayden Brown must be the third best fullback in the Championship to be able to come in and do as well as Pippa can do with Toffolo on the left, because honestly, those two are the best fullbacks in this division. There's no doubt in my mind they are. For what we need them to do, there is not any other fullback in the division I'd go out and get to bring in to replace them. They are phenomenal. The miles they run, guys, like you're saying, we will test it in the next 6 games now. They're going to now get tested in regards to how the bodies can handle how much running we ask from them, because they are something. I've never seen fullbacks be able to do what they can do week in, week out. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. And for under $1 million we've spent on the pair of them all up, like that is probably the best money we've spent other than on strikers in my entire time supporting talent. It's crazy. They are so good. But after getting lucky with the Hamer stuff and scoring against everyone in play, the game just kind of fell to us. We controlled that game. Bakuna and Eiting in midfield, they're going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams. Bakuna's a bit more laid back. We know that when he's playing, he's a bit casual, but Eiting plays with the same rigour and effort as our fullbacks do. He's everywhere. For the Toffolo chance, Tom, and he actually played the ball to Toffolo, right? Toffolo run straight at goal, and by the time Toffolo shoots and should have scored, Eiting's 2 yards to the left of him for an easy tap in. He's not only passed the ball into him, he's gone for the second ball. I know that's so important. That's so important, and we don't do that enough. That's when we used to attack. The midfielders never used to follow the ball forward, but Eiting played into Toffolo, and he's still there. And it should have been an easy pass from Toffolo to Eiting to tap it in. But Toffolo, he fancied a break, so we can't go too hard at him for that. But I thought it was pretty harsh, the penalty on Hamer. I thought he did so well to come out. Was it?
Well, compared to Pickford, it wasn't a bloody pen, were it? So,
Well,
if a referee is actually saying that it's a dodgy pen, which Cam is a bastard in the black, Sorry, Cam, but you've got the qualification. If you're saying it's a iffy pen, it's an iffy pen because referees are notoriously bastards when it comes to that. And I didn't think it was a pen, and I felt sorry for him because when you're following a game, it's Ben Hamer's the one person you don't want to make a mistake anymore because fans jump on him. And listen, I think we remember him when he was at Charlton when we were in League One. We went up together in that same season. He was a very, very good goalkeeper. He's got a crisis of confidence. And yeah, fucking great game. But he wasn't a pen. Never a pen.
Yeah, the ball's gone. The ball's gone out, Cam. Sorry, Cam. The ball's well gone. Like the ball's well gone there. It's not in play anymore. You can't to give a penalty on that, and he took so long. You can see if it was 0-0, he doesn't give that penalty. He doesn't give that penalty 0-0. 1-0 down.
I mean, I can't put my name against anything to like saying that a certain scoreline or a certain time in the game. But what I will certainly agree in is that I thought, because I mean, like I used to ref to like. I lined up to like Northern County stands. So I did 6-7 years, is it? And so like you have to spot these things. And for me, the first thing I saw it, and okay, caveat, I had Matt Glennon over the airwaves in my ear, poisoning me with his pro goalkeeping opinions. That may have sided with me somewhat, but I think the ball has gone. The touch has been made. It's past him, and I think it's just momentum that follows it through. And so. Okay, I've only had the benefit of 3 or 4 I follow replays to make my mind up. But if that's me not really siding with it after 4 goes, then yeah, I think it was you've seen him giving, of course, but yeah, it was a tame one. However, okay, I feel duty bound to add in that, of course, he gets one look at it. It's in real time. I'm sure that the score didn't come into his head once at all, but I felt for Hamer on that one. I thought that was the only foot. Okay, no, actually, other than the distribution, of course, which you mentioned, I thought that was a foot he put wrong that he couldn't really do a lot about. And so, whilst I'd like to see a few less hairy moments in clearing out from the back, I don't think he did very much wrong there. And like you said, he's clearly suffering for confidence. I hope he's getting that back. His post-match interview against Forest, it was a fantastic performance. He looked like a man very relieved. And we've all seen on htafc hashtag on Twitter, just as everywhere else on that site. There's a lot of people on there who will present their views and back it up, or who will be measuring their views. And I think there's a lot of people as well who have a lot of anger to get out and might want to speak to someone about it. And so, it's very easy to aim it at a footballer. And as the last line of defence, he's going to obviously be in the firing line. And so, yeah, he is, out of anyone in that squad, he is the person I most want to do well on a human level. He comes across as a genuinely nice person. He obviously has ability. He's made a whole career at this level and higher. At this level in League One and higher. So it's well within his capability. So, what player doesn't go through bad run of form? I think you just notice it a lot more with goalkeepers. So, good luck to him. Long may it continue. And I just hope he gets cut a fair bit of slack. I think he's earned it.
We said before the season that if any player was going to really benefit from having no fans in the stadium, it's Ben Hamer. Because you can see him when it comes to shot stopping, he's amazing. If he doesn't have to think about it, he's great. He makes the saves time after time after time. His distribution isn't great. But at the weekend, he was asked to do an awful lot. Naby Sarr put some horrendous balls back to him. Stearman did another couple as well. Everything, he was asked to do an awful lot. And for a goalkeeper that isn't necessarily the greatest ball player, he coped fine for me. Not saying he's great. He coped fine. But he did make a mistake for the penalty, like you say. I don't think it was a pen, but he could have got out of the way, maybe. Whatever. But he didn't collapse in on himself like he would have probably done, in my opinion, if the fans would have been in the stadium. So he's a bit fortunate then, and good for us, good for him. It's nice to see him do really well. We said before the season there's a chance he'd get Player of the Year, and I think apart from the fullbacks, he probably would be up there. We have him contracted for the full year, and money is tight, so we were always going to have to give him a chance. And it's just nice to see for him, after the shit he got from so many fans that went way past professional critiquing into personal abuse for me. It's great to see him stand up, and put some performances in like he's doing. Because for me, if you don't make those few saves in the first 15 minutes, we lose that game at the weekend. And instead he did. He made them, and here we are, 3 points better off that none of us expected to have.
Yeah, I think what will happen as the season goes on, Killers, I think if his form continues as it is in terms of making those saves and dominating his box, I think fans will become more forgiving of the distribution errors. I think we're kidding ourselves if we think he's going to, in the next few weeks, cut that out of his game. As you say, he's not a ball-playing goalkeeper, but Carlos's style requires him to be a ball-playing goalkeeper. And the guy's doing as he's asked. You know, he's trying to be brave. He's trying to pick out a full-back or a winger on the touchline rather than just hoof it 60 yards up the field. So, you know, you have to give him credit for that. And I think as long as he continues to grow a little bit, I think fans will become more, including me, will become more forgiving of those distribution errors, I think.
Well, if a shock win against Swansea wasn't enough, we've just done Derby as well. Team goal, liquid football. Shit, did you see that? All the Alan Partridge isms are coming out. Janina Bakuna's goal against a toothless Derby County means Town are now plummeting towards the top half of the table, which is what we like to see. As Corba ball, as I'm going to call it from now on, takes effect. It wasn't the prettiest game at times, but it had one of the most beautiful moments of 2020 as we've seen on a football field as a Huddersfield Town fan. Lovely goal, lovely win. Ben Hamer keeping the clean sheet against all the Derby fans who were giving him shit last season. What a wonderful way to round off an interesting week to be following Huddersfield Town.
Well, it was just exciting. I mean, the first half left a little bit to be desired. Once again, it was we were slow getting into things. But second half, we seemed to come alive. And that is one of the best goals I've seen Town score in recent years. Everyone getting involved. Janina Bakuna knew exactly where he was going. Harry Toffolo was reading about 10 minutes ahead of everyone else. Slot the finish away coolly. I do like how you can already see Toffolo turning to celebrate before Bakuna's even put it in the net. He knew that was going. It was well-polished move. It smelt like class. Okay, it smelt like polish. Not to say that there weren't problems, of course, in the first half, a few defensive frailties. Looked a bit naive at times. I thought people might have had his rubber boots on with some of the touches that were cannoning off him. But on the whole, I thought we looked really strong, gents. I thought that the plan seemed to work. We grew into the game. And also something that I've noticed is a marked improvement, especially from against the games such as against Forest. Game management. We looked like we knew what we were doing there, closing that out, barring a silly challenge on the edge of the box from Fraser Campbell. And I think he knew what he'd done the moment it had happened. Then I think we rode it out really well. There was no rushing. There was no playing Hollywood balls now to try and jump in for a second. Everything was measured. Everything was calm. We kept the heads. I think we completely deserved it. We got let off a couple of times, admittedly again. But, you know, strong in net again, Hamer. Good in front of goal. And we grew into it. So I, for one, I'm very satisfied with that.
Well, lads, I've been out. I've ordered my skinny chinos. I'm going to start wearing my shirt untucked under my V-neck jumper. Yeah, am I fickle? God, yeah. But I mean, that game was everything I've come to expect from a Carlos team. I mean, the goal was a thing of beauty. You know, if it was a young lady, I'd be asking her out for a social distance drink. You know, it had a bit of everything in it, and that's what I liked about it. It was less than 10 touches between Hamer and at the back of their net. You know, I'm with you, Cam. I think first half we were a little sloppy at times. We gave away some soft set pieces, and a better team than Derby might have punished us in those environments. But I think you have to give Cocker, who's probably getting much stick tonight, a bit of credit. I thought in the first half they played three men very high against our back four, which meant the full-backs couldn't really get into the game. And just before we scored, I think Schindler was due to come on to try and give us more room for the full-backs, wing-backs, whichever way we play from a player. But, you know, I think it's another big tick in the box for me for a coach who's really showing he can manage at this level and get more out of a bunch of players than I thought was possible.
Cam nailed it for me. I think it's clear now to see 7 games in, right? The plan. There is a plan for every different aspect of the game. Gaz is bang on there. Derby set up really well. They set up well, and the game plan was to push our fullbacks back and not be able to contribute in the attacking game. And for a while, it worked. It worked pretty well. Problem is, Derby seemed to tire. They started okay, but whatever, the pressing that they were having to do to keep our fullbacks penned back in our half must have just been too much for them, because they died out their arse in that second half. They totally went. But you can see we have a plan for every phase of the game. That's where the goal came from. The new dead ball rules, in that you can pass it out to anyone in your own box, really help us. It helps us phenomenally, because we know Hamer might not necessarily be the best distributor, but when you've got a free pass, it can start straight away. It's an easy six-yard pass, and that's where the first goal came from. Worked it really well down the left-hand side, everyone knowing exactly what to do. One of the really important things we seem to be doing now as a team is the person that passes the ball is then given the free role to chase it forward. That's where the goal came down from, the left-hand side. It happened at the weekend with Eiting and Toffolo, where Toffolo could have squared it for Eiting just to pass it into the back of the net. It didn't go that way that time. And then this time you had Toffolo going down the left, Bakuna playing in the ball in, and then him running the free roam into the box. And now if you actually take a freeze frame of the goal, you can see everyone's in the box in the right place as well. We've got a wing around the back in case the ball goes across too far. We've got two guys running in from the edge of the box, one going towards the front post, which was Bakuna. I'm not quite sure who was going towards the back post. It might have been Fraser. But there's people all over the place. Oh, sorry, Fraser was on the keeper, so it must have been Eiting on the centre midfielder. But you've got players in designated positions, and that's where these goals are coming from. They're no accidents. People aren't just accidentally in the correct position. You can really see the effort made to get into the right positions. We didn't have that under the Cowleys. We've not had that for years. And to see it working, that's where these 1-0 wins come from. You don't have to have many attacks, but when you do, and the chance is there, and everyone's in the right position, more often than not, you'll actually take the chances. And it was a game that, for the first time in how long, it felt like a routine victory. That's what it felt like to me. You were watching the game and thinking, you always thought we'd have a chance of scoring here. It never really felt like we were going to concede. And then when we went 1-0 up, it felt casual. It felt easy. It looked like Derby weren't challenging at all. And as soon as Lawrence went off, I know he was hitting some corners in like it were a floaty ball and it was drifting like 30, 40 yards over the goal. But as soon as he went off, they just died out their ass. They're absolutely nothing. Biggest problem out of today's game, though, is Pippa going off with a hip injury, I think, compared Oggy or Glenn said. And now Dehaney did only have 10 minutes when he came on, but straight away there was not the same effort down the wing. Considering the stage of the game that we want to look, maybe that's the reason there, but it definitely won't offer as much as Pippa does. So the biggest thing going into the weekend will be to see if Pippa is fit enough to play, because if not, the style that we have, the system that we have, probably won't be as effective. But to say where we were just 5-6 games ago in the cup game as well, we were awful. We looked like we were so behind the time and behind where we should be at that point in the season. And after the Brentford game, since then it's like a new team. I don't know what they are doing in training, but it's working, because it's just exciting to watch and keep winning games like this. You get a bit of momentum behind you and you don't know what's going to happen. It's just got to keep those injuries away, because again, as we've said, the squad's not the biggest.
It's definitely the fitness here. And, I was saying with the Swansea game, the fitness is telling. There was, on balance, there was a spell. I think we had a brief spell in the first half, around 5 minutes, around the 20-minute mark, where we had a period of sustained pressure. We kept getting a few balls in the box and Derby couldn't get out. But then from that point on, the rest of the first half, I thought Derby were by far the better team. I thought we struggled to get hold of the ball. They didn't really create that much, Derby, but they had the majority of the ball, and we just didn't seem to get our rhythm together. But it just seems to be a running thing that we start off relatively slow in the first half. I don't think we peak until we start getting to the second half, where the other teams start to tire, start getting those extra pockets of space, and that's when we can start to exploit it. And last season, the fitness just wasn't there to be able to do that. And again, in this game, I think once the second half got underway, we start to pick ourselves up a bit, get those passes away a bit quicker, managed to carve through Derby a little bit more, create more chances. I mean, on balance, Derby couldn't hit a barn door with the set pieces. Another team that's better on set pieces would have caused us more problems. And there was a couple of back passes from Sarr that give me palpitations. But other than that, I thought, again, really disciplined performance. And the fitness for me is the main thing that's coming through here, that we're able to see out games, we're able to keep going forward. Perhaps should have taken it to the corner. There was one chance right at the end again. Similar to Nottingham Forest game where we tried to score, we tried to play the guy through instead of maybe just take it to the corner, just seeing the game out. And I think Derby, all right, they didn't create a clear-cut chance, but then we ended up with a situation where they were on the edge of our box right at the last minute again. So I think maybe just a bit more savviness just to take it into that corner, just see the game out. But no, all credit to him again. Really disciplined performance and a great win, and long may it continue. If he'd have said to me we'd have 10 points this stage of the season after that Rochdale game, I'd have said you're insane. But no, he's and a bit of credit, has to go. I mean, we've all been critical of Phil and this interview that's come out, but to be fair, he's brought this guy in, Carlos, and he is doing a sensational job. So I think he does, he made that difficult decision to get rid of the Cowleys. He knew he'd come under a lot of stick, but it does seem to be paying off at this moment in time. My one concern is, as you alluded to, and again, the injury to Pieper. If we get injuries to him and Toffolo, the system collapses, and it'll be very interesting to see in the next game how we adapt if he isn't playing.
Taking on that point, though, it also, with those a few additions that we could have and should have probably brought in, this squad seems to be in a much better position in the league at the minute than we have been for a while. And when you have a style of play, just need that little bit of strength and depth. And Cam mentioned it. I think Ian might have mentioned it. It was 7 games in 22 days. It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday for the next couple of weeks. It'd be interesting to see how this squad copes with the games that are coming up. I do fear that if a first team, I think we can compete well in this league, but it's what's behind that, and 5 strikers give over. Three right backs of the same level. No, we just need that little bit of added quality. And yes, that comes with a bit of money that we don't want to be spending at the minute. But Selavi, if you've got a good man, back him, because if he doesn't get backed, he'll be well sought after. And we saw that with Wagner. He nearly went in the first full season he was here to Villa. So. Interesting times. Speaking of next games, PNE, Preston North End, coming up in a few days' time. I mean, they've had a rocky start to the season. They're down there at the minute. They're always one of those teams that seem to be mid-table and have a good season out of nowhere. Failed in the playoffs as ever, but also drop off too. So. I don't really know anymore. It's hard to predict because COVID's kind of the normal season forms, etc., kind of go out of the window now. Because I haven't got a clue if you even look into the top league where you'd expect certain clubs to be performing well at a certain level. But Preston North End, with a game in hand, sit 19th, 2 points above the relegation zone, and Town for the minute a top half. So. We'd be favourites, 3 wins out of 4, but I haven't got a clue anymore, to be honest with you, gents.
Well, yeah, the one that's sticking out for me from Preston's run of games so far is that marquee result, the 4-2 win over Brentford. But apart from that, they look very, very ordinary. 4 points, as we say, from 5 games, obviously, and then we'll see how they do in midweek. But I think we have to be confident, really. I don't think we can go into it with any fear now. We are in a rich vein of form. It's not going to last forever. It's not. We're going to have a bad result, a shit performance, and we're going to be complaining back on Town Social before long. But if this can continue, then we just got to see it as an opportunity to rack up as many as we can. It's simple. It sounds simple because it is simple. Don't tweak it. Just keep it going. Manage the fitness levels is probably going to be the most difficult thing we have to do. There's going to have to be some sort of policy of rotation. And that's all right in places like centre-back, where we obviously have Schindler, who looked like he was going to come off the bench, but he'll be fresh. It's going to be more difficult in full-back roles, etc. And, well, maybe not if we've got 5 strikers now, but I think we might struggle up front as well to keep everybody fresh. But full-backs is the main one, and I think we'll all be waiting with bated breath to see the outcome of Pieper's injury or suspected injury. Here's hoping. But But yeah, again, I'm genuinely looking forward to the weekend now and catching this Town game. Carlos, and I credit him with this, has brought back a system and a feeling, a club-wide, community-wide sentiment that gets Huddersfield Town and their games to be an exciting prospect again. And it's been a while since we've had that. So there's a bit of a buzz now. People, I love seeing those tweets where people say, oh, you know, I said I wasn't going to watch the game, but I can't tear myself away. That's come back now. And so I'm hoping that this can keep going. And I don't see why, given the teams that we've faced so far, I don't think Preston have anything particularly more to offer. And so, okay, yeah, big caveat, it is Huddersfield Town. Who on earth knows? But yeah, I'm full of confidence. I might eat my words on this one, but I'm full of confidence at the moment.
That's not a score prediction, Cam. It's your score prediction.
I thought I got away with it. We're going to have to go for 1-0. Oh.
Yeah, Preston are a bit of a bogey team for us. I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen us beat Preston. I'm going back to Jepson and Booth days, I think. They are a team that normally we would have a problem with because they're big, strong, direct, have a real clear game plan and play to it. We normally struggle against those teams. They play tomorrow, so we get 24 hours more to recover, which for a team like ours is now really important. Recovery time will become important. So I think that's definitely a bonus for us. But I have a sneaky feeling. I think we will probably have a bit too much quality when it comes to the vital moments of the match. I don't think it'll be a great game because I don't think Preston will let it be a great game. But I'm with you, Cal. I think I fancy us to do another sneaky one or maybe even a 2-0.
It's not going to be one for purists, is it? That's for sure. They're a bit of a clog inside at Preston. They commit a lot of fouls, go down looking for free kicks out of jet box. They're going to try and stifle us. They're not going to allow us to play attractive football, and it's going to be a bit of a battle of wills. I think we did. I seem to remember us beating them at home when we went up. I think was it Big Cole scored from a rebound from penalty to beat in the last minute or something late on in the game. I think it's a game we probably should win on paper, but with it being Huddersfield Town, anything could happen, as you've said. I think it could be a 2-1 scrape win for Town, but I don't think it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, just simply because of the way Preston play. We're not going to be able to play that one-touch attractive football. It's just going to be a bit of a battle of wills, and they're going to have to be patient, and they're going to have to take the chance when it comes, because I don't think they're going to get many chances.
That extra day recovery that we get cannot be understated. It really can't be. They're down in London tomorrow, I think. So they probably won't train Thursday morning. So they're only going to have a couple of training sessions, and most of that will be recovery on Friday before playing us. So everything that could go in our favour, bar Pippa's injury, has in regards to this fixture for me. I think we'll burn them out second half. I think we'll have too much for him. I think first half will be tight, like every game seems to be for us, and then we'll make the adjustments and run away with it a little bit in the second half. I reckon 2-0. I think we'll score, but I think both goals will come after half time, and there'll be a late one on the breakaway, like we should have had against Derby, with O'Brien failing to put it across. I think to either Toffolo or Pippa. But no, Preston, they keep it pretty tight. They've got the same goal difference as we have, even though we're about 10, 15 positions above them. It'll be a tight game. I think they're going to sit back and ask us to break them down again. I don't think they'll have watched Derby and chuck 3 up top to try and hold the fullbacks deep. They'll just sit as deep as possible, like Rotherham did, and try and expect us to break them down, which we've struggled with. And if Pippa definitely isn't playing, then it's going to be even more of a struggle for us. Fraser Campbell struggles with 2 games in a week at the moment, as we all know. So if he's playing or not would make a difference for me too. But as is, I think the belief's creeping back, isn't it? Like when we went into this season, we were looking at not enough signings coming in, affecting the chances of relegation, and that we'd regret that we didn't strengthen enough to give us a good fighting chance. And now I got that one wrong. It's pretty clear now we're looking at the wrong end of the table from what's been going on recently. And not bringing guys in is more of a missed opportunity, in that we could be higher up in the league at the right end. But this game is probably the first test for squad depth that we've had. So it's going to be an exciting one. And there's just no boring games at the moment, is there? Everything's just, even if it is quite a defensive, counter-attacking kind of game, there's always things there to watch and enjoy. If our team's not putting it outside of outside of the foot cross in, or Naby Sarr putting a 58-yard ball to somebody that's entirely unnecessary, or passing one back to Hamer in the middle of the goal, and if Hamer misses it, it's in his own net. It's just, the games are full of moments at the moment, and we haven't had it for so long. So just let that continue, and another 3 points, and we can delude ourselves a bit more, thinking that playoffs are realistic. But 7 games in, we never expected to be here.
Speaking of moments and playoffs and Preston, as Nick quite rightly pointed out, with the 3-2 epic win from that season over Preston at our place, when Big Col mopped up when Moy couldn't stick away a penalty. In your eyes, lads, who's on the end of that missed penalty in the final minute? Because I know that I am banking steep on Fraser Campbell to come on 84th minute, just trot around on the edge of the box, nursing his knees, pop up last minute, stick one in. My money is definitely on him just to shithouse one in the last minute for us. So no, prime shithousery for me. He's the number one candidate.
Naby Sarr going to hit one from 70 yards like it's Joe Lynch. That's what it's going to be. No, it's going to be 1-1 for me. Scott Sinclair for Preston, and Isaac Mbenza for Town. We're bold. I think we've got a bet on that. Mbenza to score. I believe in him. Poor lad. He's had half an hour off tonight. It's a difference, a couple of weeks, mate. As we said, we're looking up, which is only good, but it's kind of looking back and saying, we've had a little bit more. This season could be really, really special. Football for you. Ups and downs and here and there's. I think it's been an interesting podcast, this. So, gentlemen, thank you all for your time. Gareth Kaye, Cameron Pope, Ian Kilroy, Nick Barlow on debut. Thank you very much. I've been Greg Marah. Until next time. Until after Preston, goodbye.